So today I'm going to be playing with Pinkfresh Studio, one of their crafting stencils. This one is called the Holiday Botanical Background, and it's stunning. And it is a 4-piece stencil. 1, 2, 3, 4, and they are beautifully labeled up in the left-hand corner here. And it makes it super easy for you to go from step to step to step. And then we're also going to accompany it with another Pinkfresh Studios product, one of their large greeting stamp sets here. And this one is called, let me pull out packaging here, Perfect Sentiments Holiday. And it does have a coordinating die, and it also has a coordinating foil plate as well. So if you're interested in that, you can check that out. Alright, so let's get started. So the stencils, not only are they labeled Stencil 1, you're not going to see this on the video, but there's also a small etched line for an A2 sized card. So it ensures that your placement, and this is an A2 sized 4 1/4 by 5.5 piece of cardstock, just white cardstock. Just use your favorite. And what it is, it allows you to always put the stencil back in the same spot. So it's great. So we're going to start off with our Speckled Egg. And I'm just using good old sponge daubers because they're easy. They're small enough they get in really tight into the areas of the stencil. And I have an ink blending sponge for each distress color. So it's super easy to kind of pull them out. So again, this is just our Speckled Egg. I love this color. It's kind of like a dusty blue. So we're going to use our tape today. I will clean my stencils off later. The nice thing with distress inks is that they don't tend to be very hard to clean off, which is great. Hooray! So again, I'm just using those registration marks on the stencil, which of course you can't really see, but they help out so greatly. Just makes it so much easier to pop it right back in place. Alright, we're going to use a little bit of peeled paint. And this time, there's multiple different pieces of greenery. So there's some holly leaves and then some branch kind of sprigs. And I want them to be 2 separate colors. So I'm going to use some, actually, full stick Post-it notes. These are wonderful in your craft room. They just help block off any of the areas that you need to get into. Because they are full stick, they work awesome for masks too. So if you can't find masking paper, just go to your local Walmart or whatever and get the full stick Post-it notes. Okay, so peeled paint we are just going to apply to our holly leaves. There we go. And I'm just gonna switch this over. We have a little holly leaf fella off to the side there. And again, just reusing. So what's nice about these is that you can reuse them again and again. I'm gonna be, this one's far enough away in the corner that I don't really have to use a Post-it note to isolate it. But I will use a Post-it note to isolate this one. This one's far enough away. We can get in there like that. There we go. Now, before we go on with our greens, we're going to use a little bit of Rustic Wilderness here. And we're just going to kind of use the edge of one of the sponges, so just a little bit. Same with me, Melissa. I only use oxides and CP inks, so yeah. So this time I'm just going to put a little touch of dark green kind of at the end of our holly leaf. So you can just pick an end. And I'm just carefully blending it in there. You don't have to do them all. And it doesn't have to be exact. This is just kind of like one of those detailed things. You don't even have to do this. You can keep your holly leaves completely one color. But I like to add the added detail because it makes my card. So again, just brushing it in. Just casual. And this is why these stencils are so great. Everything is just so fast. Okay, now let's do our twiggies. And this time I'm going to use my masks in the opposite. Let's see, I'm going to use gathered twigs. How appropriate, right? Grab my tool. There we go. And this part of the stencil overlaps those leaves that we did previously. So it's adding the detail over top of those leaves, which is very, very cool. A lot of them are spread enough apart that I don't really need to go in with the rest of the mass. I know we have a little fella underneath here though. So let's make sure we grab him. Oxides are so wonderful for blending because they're a little bit more opaque than the regular distress inks. They give you good coverage. Okay, so there are the gathered twigs. And again, I just take this to my bathroom sink and wash it with an actual nail brush. So a little bit of water, a little bit of soap, and my nail brush. I just do a light scrub on it and they come out beautiful. And again, let's use those registration marks etched right on that stencil. Bravo, Pink Fresh. Beautiful way to design your products. I love them. Okay, this time we are doing twigs and sprigs. So I'm going to use Evergreen Bough. We're going to start with that one. And I need to bring in my dauber here. And this time we are going to go anything holly related. That's what we're going to cover for this time. So let's start down in the lower corner here. This is a really pretty color too. I wanted something a little bit different for this card because I love the Evergreen Bough and the Speckled Egg. I really wanted to include them in this card. So, if you happen to hear voices, my son is in the basement, like right below me. So, I apologize if he's yelling at his screen. He's been told that I'm going live, but of course he doesn't listen. What else is new, right? Okay. Great coverage on these inks. I love them, I love them, I love them. And then we're going to go over and do this little guy over here. And again, you don't have to use masks if you don't want to, but I'm just trying to isolate just to make it easier so that I don't go into something that I don't want to color. All right. Now we need to do these sprigs, and I am going to do them in Iced Spruce. Yes, something a little different. Give me a second to find my applicator. I do not know where my applicator went. Alright, I'm going to use this one here from my Speckled Egg. Okay. This is a little bit kind of a darker gray. And again, we're just going to go into all those little BBs that we missed here. This color kind of reminds me of lamb's ears. Do you guys know what lamb's ears are? That's kind of what it reminded me of. Alright, There we go, a little bit of ice spruce. Okay, on to number 4 and the final stencil to complete our image. Look at that, isn't that beautiful? You could stop right here and it would be awesome. You don't have to put on the berry layer, but I love the pop of red. So I had to use the berry layer, but you could absolutely stop right then and there, and I think it would look awesome. The other thing too is that if you choose, you don't have to use all the parts. If you wanted, let's say, just the hollies, then use just that part of the stencil and don't ink up anything else. That's the nice thing about stencils, is you can pick and choose whichever kind of works for you. Okay, candied apple. So I wanted to go more of a reddish orangish ink. I think this would look really cool with like festive berries color. You could even go off track and do like purple, might be kind of cool. You could truly experiment with all the colors that you would add to this stencil. You could come up with some really cool things. I think it would be really fun to put, like clean this off and then come back with a glitter paste and put it over top. Wowzers. So it would look like you would almost have like candied berries or sugared berries on your greenery. And I think that would look awesome. Now, when you use products like that, and always make sure you wash your stencils immediately after use, because you don't want to leave that medium laying on, because you can wreck your stencils. So make sure you take them to the sink and give them a good wash. Okay? So look at that. Isn't that awesome? Okay. I'm just going to pull my oxides out of the way just because I'm low on space here. Give me a second. So before I go and kind of ink edges and kind of distress things, we're going to do one thing. I'm going to use the very, very cool Decal Trimmer by Botanical Studios. Okay. So let me see if I can just grab a piece of colored paper, because I want to show you what it gives you first before I go and cutting it, because I know it's going to be very hard to see white against white. So, okay, just a scrap of paper here. So, as you can see, this is just a normal straight edge, okay? I'm going to take this to the trimmer, and it does have grid lines on it, so you can make sure that it's the size you want. And what it does is it makes this a regular edge, almost as if it's torn, but it's cut, so it's not frayed. It's so cool. If you have a chance to try this out, absolutely fun tool. All right, so we're going to take our panel and trim off kind of like the white space around it. I want to kind of take off a little bit of the edge. So I'm just going to take it to my trimmer here. And what I'm doing is I'm changing where I cut it along this edge. So either at the top or towards the bottom. It's going to give you a little bit of a different edge for cutting. So make sure that you use kind of like different areas of the cutting tool, because it gives you a different effect in different points along the cutting edge, okay? So one last cut here. There we go. So now instead of a straight edged, see how it's kind of zigzaggy and it's irregular, and I think that's so cool. All right, back down here, set the trimmer out of the way. I am going to do just a quick cleaning my surface here just because I've got some leftover ink from us blending our background, and I don't want to get it caught up in the brown because it might taint it and change the color. All right, there we go. A little bit of water and a fiber cloth does the trick. Okay, there we go. Now I'm gonna bring in my gathered twigs. All right, and I'm just gonna put a piece of Post-it note tape on my fingers just so my fingers aren't going to leave an imprint. Don't ask me how I know to do that. All right. This mat is pretty good at holding down my project, and sometimes I'll even put a piece of tape on the back just to hold it. We're just gonna blend. And I'm okay if things kind of blend, like the red blends into the brown. It just makes it a little bit more vintage feeling. I'm going to leave a little bit of white in that central area so you don't go all the way in with your ink blending. And you don't have to do this step either. I mean, you can leave it completely white, but I wanted a little bit more of a vintage feel. So it's actually softened everything a little bit by blending. All right. Now, I want to bring in some splatters. So I'm just going to put that right over top. I'm not worried about it. And we're going to just squish out some ink on my work surface here. And 1 second, I just gotta grab my sprayer. A little bit of water. And you can either use, I like to use a toothbrush if you're going to do extra fine splatters, or you could just use a paintbrush. And I'm just putting ink on the brush and then tapping it against my finger, and I seem to get some nice medium, small types of splatter, and I really, really like that. I love adding splatter to kind of vintage it up, for lack of a better word. And then if you take a toothbrush, and I always have a toothbrush made for dark ink and a toothbrush made for white. So you get your bristles all loaded up, and then run your thumb through the bristles, and you get a finer spatter. And I like adding that too. It like makes your paper look almost like it has like fiber texture to it, which is really fun. Now, not only are we going to do the ground espresso, but I think we're going to use some evergreen bough as some splatter as well. So I'm going to squish it onto our mat, add water, and I'm going to start with my other toothbrush here. Like I said, I usually have one toothbrush for white and one toothbrush for darker. I'm just going to use my white one. And because the oxide inks are opaque, you're going to get some really cool splatter effects that will sit on top of all your stenciling. Okay. So I'm going to take 1 second here. Oh, you know what? I want to do some larger splatter with that. Let's go in with a paintbrush this time. Pick up that ink. Hi, Sienna. So happy you could join us. And again, I'm just using my finger And it just causes that paint to come off that paintbrush. And you can put as much splatter or as little splatter as you want. Completely up to you. All right, looking good. Liking that background. Okay, let's carefully lift this up. I am going to do a quick clean again. And this is just my stamp cleaner from Lawn Fawn, my go-to, and it does a little bit better job. Now, this is still wet, so hopefully by the time we kind of get the other elements done, these larger splatters are going to be dry. So cross your fingers. We'll set him over top to our over to the side, and this time, you know what, for time's sake I'm not going to worry about it, but this is what I did. So I took Evergreen Bough and our beautiful Perfect Sentiments Holiday Stamp Set, which is a whole large one integrated stamp set, and I stamped it out using Evergreen Bough. And then what I did is I fussy cut out a few of them. Now this one seems to have gotten some ink on it, so it looks like we're using the Season's Greetings. So I fussy cut them out. There is a die for it, but using this as inspiration, we need a piece of red cardstock that matches our berries. So I'm just going to grab a piece of scrap, and I'm just going to randomly kind of cut it here. That looks good. Isn't that how you do cards? And to make things match, I'm just going to ink it up using the inks that are already used on our card. So, good old candied apple. Here we come. And if you do a piece that's a little bit larger than you need, then you can just trim it down. So just direct to paper. And just ink it up to your heart's content. Make sure that you got the coverage that you want. I'm going to clean this up because I know, being red ink, right, we're going to be in trouble if I don't, because it's going to just be everywhere. Good old microfiber cloth, right? Okay, I'm going to have to dry this because it's not going to dry in time. That's the one thing with oxide inks, is they stay wet a little longer than your average inks. Sorry for the noise. It won't take long. All right. I know, sienna isn't a pretty color. I always forget about Evergreen Bough. And when I was going through my distressings, I'm like, you know what? I have to use this color. It's so pretty. Okay. So we want something that kind of sticks out the end. And, you know, I'm going old school here. I'm going scissors. So that end isn't quite as inked up as I'd like. So it can go bye-bye. And we want it to stick out. And that looks good. So you could leave it like that if you really wanted to. Or you could die cut this. Whatever floats your boat. Now, here's how to do an easy banner end. Take your scissors right down the center and cut, make a cut in. And what you're going to do is cut between the point and the top of your cut line to make that first banner cut, like such. And then you're going to do it completely the same on the other side, coming from that corner. And of course, it's going to not play nice with me. And then you're going to do the same from the other end. And of course, you can use your ruler and make sure things are completely the same depth. But you know what? I'm eyeballing it. Because you know what? Sometimes it's just, well, it's a handmade card. Right? And if people don't realize that you've spent time and energy to make them something beautiful, then maybe they don't deserve one, right? Okay, so there. Really, really simple. Okay, it's large enough to put our greeting on. Now, where did I put it? On the original card, I used red thread. But you know what? I'm going to change it up for this one, and I'm going to use a silver one. Because I love using metallic threads. So the trick to this is to, number one, we need to put some kind of adhesive. Generally works better with a tape adhesive. You could use glue dots or something like that too. But you need to put adhesive on the back of your sentiment first. Then you make a tiny little nest. And the best way to do that is to wrap it around either 2 or 3 fingers. And you can make your nest as big and fluffy as you want. You can always add to your nest as well. But I do, you know, good couple of twists around. Okay. And then you kind of let go of it. Don't worry about the ends for now, because we're going to tuck them. And you just kind of pull it apart, per se. And you're just going to stick it down to the back. And that's why you need the adhesive, because you need it to kind of help you and hold things in place. And this is where you can manipulate it a little bit, you know, like if your loop is too big or if you need extra loops on the bottom, then do that. So take your ends and do some creative twisting. I love doing this. I love the touch of metallics on Christmas cards, so doing this is fun. Again, take your other end here. You get to play loops. Loops and boops. Alright. And this one doesn't want to cooperate. There we go. And of course you could skip this on your card. If you're making like 50 of these, then maybe you don't want to do this part, but to each his own. Okay, let's put some foam tape on this baby. I'll bring up my Big Mama roll and slice off a piece here. Now this is a little bit too wide, so I'm going to cut down that piece. Okay. And, oh, that's pretty good. And then I'm going to use this to add just one more piece, just so that it acts stable. And then, of course, here's your little red banner. Pull off the backing. Oh, I just love this color combination. It just goes so well together. That candy apple red and that gorgeous evergreen bow green. Yum, yum, yum. Okay, setting this aside. And hooray, it did have time to dry. Now, I'm going to bring in, I'm a top fold card gal. I don't know about you, but I like top folds. So I am going to do that now. I use 110-pound white cardstock for this, and it is never a true 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock because I'm cheap and I buy cheap 110-pound. So I always have to trim it off. Okay, there we go. It's all trimmed out. Ready to go on your card base. And of course you could make this red. It would be awesome. If you don't have matching cardstock, just take your paper, like your pad, your ink pad, and ink up those edges. That would be totally cool. Alright, so Yeah, that's really even. Wow, it really is even. It's not cut straight at all. Yeah, wow, it really isn't. Okay. It's handmade, Allison. It's handmade. Okay, let's apply some good old adhesive to this and position this up towards the top. I'm hoping this is straight. You know what? I bought a new tool this week. Yes, I finally found one. I wish it was a little bit smaller, but you know, whatever. So this just helps make sure that things are perpendicular to the edges of the card. All right, hooray! And look, oh, that was close. Close, close, close. All right. And there we go, guys. This one is a little bit deeper in color, and that's okay. You just make it your own, right? So again, Pink Fresh Studios, awesome company, awesome products. I will have a link to my blog post, which has links to all the supplies that we've used today in the shop. And I really appreciate you coming and stopping by. If you would like to win this card, and I will send it directly to you, leave a comment below. And let's see, I want to know if you have started your Christmas cards yet. Just answer that question in the comment section below, and I will pick a winner, and Jess can announce them on Wednesday. All right? Thanks so much for being with me. Make sure you check out everything in the store, and oh my goodness, you have to check out the shop for the new customized stamps that would go on the back of your card. Like, it might say, handcrafted by, and your name insert here. Definitely check them out. They are awesomely priced and would be great to put all of your information on the back of your card creations. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you again soon. Bye, Elma. Bye, everybody. Take care.